Hi, and welcome to today's Daily Chronicle. Today is Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. Rheumatoid arthritis kept her captive. This nerve stimulator set her free. Lynn Millam says that a nerve stimulating implant has dramatically improved her rheumatoid arthritis. Allowing her and her husband Donald to regain the life they once enjoyed together. For more than 4 years, Lynn Millam's life was bound by the pain that radiated her swollen joints. My children could not hug me, she says. I couldn't hold my husband's hand. Millam also couldn't climb stairs or help raise her teenage son. She spent most days on the couch. The reason was rheumatoid arthritis, which occurs when the immune system starts attacking the lining of joints. Millam tried everything: physical therapy, acupuncture, steroids, and even the latest immune drugs. Nothing worked. That changed in October of 2023, when a surgeon implanted an experimental device in Millam's neck for a minute each morning. It delivers pulses of electricity to her vagus nerve, which connects the brain with internal organs. This device, when attached to the vagus nerve, can dramatically reduce symptoms in patients with some of the most severe cases of rheumatoid arthritis. 3 weeks in, my elbow pain was completely gone, she says. Then my hands didn't hurt anymore. The swelling started to go away. Eventually, all symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis had vanished. Millam, 60, says she and her husband have regained the life they enjoyed before she got sick. It's like a rebirth, she says. And now the device will be available to many other people like Millam. In July, the Food and Drug Administration approved the device, made by Set Point Medical, for people with rheumatoid arthritis whose symptoms aren't adequately controlled by drugs. On August 22nd, surgeons at Northwell Health in New York implanted the first approved device in a patient. The FDA approval could be a turning point for the treatment of not only rheumatoid arthritis, but other autoimmune diseases, including multiple sclerosis and inflammatory bowel syndrome. This treatment is using the body's own mechanism of managing inflammation, says Dr. John Tesser. A rheumatologist in Phoenix who oversaw the study that led to the device's approval. By stimulating the vagus nerve, the device sends a signal to the hypothalamus, a brain area that regulates bodily functions and interacts with the immune system. That brain area responds by sending signals back down the vagus nerve to the spleen. The signals instruct certain cells in the spleen to slow down production of proteins called cytokines, which regulate inflammation, including inflammation in the joints. Cytokines play an important role in fighting infection, but can also trigger damage to healthy tissues, including the lining of joints. The device rarely produces the sort of dramatic recovery that Lynn Millam experienced, but the pivotal clinical trial found that patients who had not responded to even the most powerful drugs often saw meaningful improvement. 35% of the patients did achieve that in this very difficult to treat group. Tesser says that was significantly more than a comparison group whose stimulators had not yet been switched on. The entire process is initiated by an implant the size of a lima bean, says Dr. Peter Conrad, a chair of neurosurgery at the Rockefeller Neuroscience Institute at West Virginia University. Everything's all built on a little chip and then is contained in a little silicone jacket. The outpatient surgery to implant the device is straightforward for any surgeon who has implanted vagus nerve stimulators, often used to control epileptic seizures, Conrad says. I've had dental surgery that was more of a process than this surgery was, Millam says. After the surgery, though, there was a hitch. Because the device sits so close to the vocal cords, Millam's voice was temporarily limited to a whisper. A second procedure fixed that, but left her voice slightly lower than it had been. Millam says she'll accept that for a treatment that did what drugs couldn't. The stimulator has restored her ability to climb stairs, cook, and travel, she says. Her husband, Donald Millam, says it's also allowing the couple to do things together again. Walking the dogs, holding hands. Just the simple things, he says. And hugs. Devices seized under a UN meeting could have shut down cell phone networks. A view of the United Nations headquarters building in New York on September 17th, the first day of high-level general debate for the 80th session of the UN General Assembly began on Tuesday. The U.S. Secret Service said it uncovered a large network of electronic devices capable of disrupting cell phone networks. In New York, ahead of the 80th anniversary meeting of the United Nations General Assembly. The agency tasked with protecting the president and vice president did not share evidence of a specific plot or threat against world leaders during the annual gathering. However, U.S. Secret Service Director Sean Curran said that the potential for damage was significant, ranging from disabling regional cell phone towers to facilitating communications between criminals and foreign adversaries. The network could also likely be used for espionage. According to the Secret Service, there were over 300 SIM servers, 100,000 SIM cards, and other illicit materials found in multiple sites in the tri-state area surrounding New York City. Secret Service agents are working alongside the New York Police Department and other law enforcement agencies, including Homeland Security investigations, to conduct forensic analysis on the devices. Matt McCool, the special agent in charge of the U.S. Secret Service Washington field office, said forensic investigation has already revealed the involvement of at least one foreign nation, as well as several bad actors already known to law enforcement. McCool said the investigation comes at a time when U.S. national security officials and private sector experts are tracking ongoing breaches of telecommunication companies. Including President Trump. McCool said the investigation is ongoing, and the agency made the decision to share information about the threat with the public in early stages to safeguard critical infrastructure. The investigation comes at a time the group responsible, often referred to as Salt Typhoon, has been linked to the Chinese government. The campaign was first disclosed last year. The U.S. Secret Service did not say whether the devices uncovered in New York had any connection to Salt Typhoon operations. However, McCool insisted the investigation of this cache was kicked off after picking up on earlier specific telecommunication-related threats. Following multiple telecommunications-related imminent threats directed toward senior U.S. government officials this spring, the Secret Service began a protective intelligence investigation to determine the extent and impact these threats could have on protective operations, McCool said. If the network of devices was intended to disrupt or spy on the UN General Assembly, it wouldn't be the first time that the diplomatic gathering, which attracts more than 100 foreign officials and their staffs, has been targeted. Former intelligence officials have described the occasion as the Super Bowl of espionage. If the massive cache of devices was used to shut down to cell phone networks and potentially impair emergency communications, that would go beyond what might be an expected level of monitoring and spying. However, it's unclear how long the network of devices was in operation around New York City, and whether its operators were hoping to disrupt the geopolitical gathering, rather than spying or organizing criminal activity in the area. Trump cancels meeting with Democrats as prospects for shutdown increase. Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer, Democrat from New York, and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat from New York, speak at a press conference at the U.S. Capitol on June 11, 2025, in Washington, D.C. President Trump abruptly canceled a planned Thursday meeting at the White House with top congressional Democratic leaders. Increasing the chances of a government shutdown on October 1st. Shortly after, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries claimed victory in a joint statement for securing the meeting on Tuesday morning. The president posted on his social media platform that he was calling it off. After reviewing the details of the unserious and ridiculous demands being made by the minority radical left Democrats in return for their votes to keep our thriving country open, I have decided that no meeting with the congressional leaders could possibly be productive, the president wrote. He argued that the items in the Democrats' alternative funding proposal, like rolling back the Medicaid changes enacted in the president's signature tax bill and extending Affordable Care Act credits, were non-starters. There are consequences to losing elections, but based on their letter to me, the Democrats haven't figured that out yet. Trump wrote. Jeffrey shot back his own response on social media, saying Trump always chickens out, reference to the taco slogan that's popularized around the president's shifting position on imposing tariffs. Our position is not complicated. Cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care, Jeffries added at a press conference on Tuesday in New York. As a signing, the message war is only starting about who is to blame in the event of a shutdown next week, Jeffries added. The extremists want to shut down the government because they are unwilling to address the Republican healthcare crisis that is devastating America. Schumer said in a statement that the president was running away from the negotiating table before he even gets there. He said the president would rather throw a tantrum than do his job. Schumer argued Trump and Republicans are holding America hostage. Donald Trump will own the shutdown. On Friday, the House narrowly approved a bill extending current funding levels through November 21st. But the Senate did not have the 60 votes needed to advance it. An alternative proposal from the Democrats also failed. Both chambers are on recess this week, and Senate Majority Leader John Thune indicated that he will bring up a straight extension of funding levels on September 29th. House leaders canceled planned votes for next Monday and Tuesday, and the chamber isn't scheduled to return until late next week. GOP leaders insist Democrats would bear the blame if there is any interruption in funding, and have dubbed the dynamic the Schumer shutdown. In a letter to House Democrats, Jeffrey said he would hold a virtual meeting with members on Friday afternoon to talk about the next steps. He noted that House GOP leaders changed the schedule for next week, but that he scheduled a caucus meeting for all House Democrats on Monday evening. Democrats will be in town and prepared to get the job done. When it comes to Tylenol, what are parents to do? The Trump administration has linked use of painkiller acetaminophen during pregnancy to autism. Here's what the science and doctors have to say about it. Headache, sore back, bad cold. In the past, many Americans would reach into their medicine cabinets and pull out acetaminophen, known by the brand name Tylenol. Without any concern at all, it's long been a staple of home medicine, seen as a safe way to treat pain and fever in pregnancy, as well as in childhood, when used as directed. But President Trump has come out swinging against this common over-the-counter drug, blaming it for rising causes of autism in recent years. Don't take Tylenol if you're pregnant, and don't give Tylenol to your child, Trump said in a White House briefing, empathetically repeating this warning more than a dozen times. Fight like hell not to take it. Physician groups, plus the maker of Tylenol, immediately pushed back on the president's stance, saying it wasn't just supported by the research. It just wasn't supported by the research and could have serious repercussions for women and babies. All of this means that many parents and would-be parents, plus others who sometimes take acetaminophen, are suddenly wondering what they should think about this old mainstay of medicine and whether they truly need to be concerned. What have research studies actually found? Researchers have spent years trying to tease out any links between autism and acetaminophen, but the evidence is uncertain. According to the Food and Drug Administration's new warning sent to physicians, it noted that while some studies have found an association between use of this drug and development of autism in children, other studies have come to the opposite conclusion. One reason such research is difficult is that parents may not remember, or may misreport, how much of the drug they actually took during pregnancy. That's why researchers are particularly interested in one 2019 study in the journal JAMA Psychiatry that made objective measurements of drug levels in umbilical cord blood in nearly 1,000 mother and child pairs. It found that children with the highest levels of acetaminophen in their cord blood were roughly 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism or ADHD later on, compared with kids that had the lowest levels in their cord blood. However, the lead researcher was careful to note that the study did not show that the drug caused those disorders, just that there was an association. Another influential study, one of the largest and best controlled, was published in 2024, and it analyzed the records of over 2 million children in Sweden. It initially found a small link between acetaminophen used in pregnancy and autism. But the researchers knew that the gene have a powerful effect on autism risk, and they wanted to control for this. Since siblings share genes and also other commonalities, such as the same home environment, they did an analysis that compared siblings who had been exposed to acetaminophen with those who had not. And when they did that, the link between autism and acetaminophen disappeared. In other words, the association was not a casual one, and it was most likely due to other factors, like genetics, infections, fevers, that sort of thing. Brian Lee of Drexel University, one of the study's authors, said in an interview with NPR's Allison Aubrey. So far, he says, the evidence largely suggests that acetaminophen does not cause autism. I wouldn't say that the chapter is closed on this by any means, but certainly the amount of evidence from the best studies to date points to no causal effect of acetaminophen on autism. One researcher whose work has suggested that the drug may increase the risk of autism is epidemiologist Ann Bauer of the University of Massachusetts. She told NPR's John Hamilton that the case is still open on acetaminophen. She thinks that while expectant mothers should be told about a potential risk, they should also be told there's no uncertainty about that risk. She also thinks it's too soon for the government to be offering guidance on the use of this drug and how that might be related to autism. I think they may be jumping the gun, she said. I think those of us in the research community would like to see stronger evidence. Why not just avoid Tylenol altogether in pregnancy? President Trump said repeatedly that there was no downside to not taking acetaminophen and that women should try to tough it out. But experts in maternal fetal medicine say that untreated fever is known to be dangerous in pregnancy, and pain is a problem too. The Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine has pointed out that untreated fever, particularly in the first trimester, increases the risk of miscarriage, birth defects, and premature birth. Untreated pain, meanwhile, can be linked to depression and high blood pressure. Nicole Baldwin, MD, a pediatrician from Cincinnati, Ohio, told NPR Allison Aubrey that I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had an injury. I fell in mid-pregnancy. And if I hadn't taken Tylenol, I can't imagine the suffering I would have had for 2 months. There are no other medications that these pregnant women can take, Baldwin said, as other pain and fever-reducing drugs have been proven unsafe in pregnancy. Ibuprofen, for example, has been linked to kidney problems in fetuses. Acetaminophen is one of the few options available to pregnant patients to treat pain and fever. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists said in a statement following the president's press conference, when considering the use of medication in pregnancy, it's important to consider all potential risks along with any benefits. And that's basically what the FDA told physicians this week, saying that while clinicians should consider minimizing the use of acetaminophen during pregnancy for routine low-grade fevers. This had to be balanced with the fact that acetaminophen is the safest over-the-counter option in pregnancy against fever and pain. Who should parents trust on these issues? Worried parents might wonder how they're supposed to make decisions when the research community might debate autism and acetaminophen for years to come. Who has the time to sit there and go through dozens or hundreds of scientific articles on any given topic, sympathizes Lee. We trust our experts, and if our experts are telling us one thing, but the other experts are saying another thing, it causes confusion. I would say what parents need to do is to step back and think about who they're hearing the messages from. Helen Tagger Flusberg, director of Boston University's Center for Autism Research Excellence, told NPR's Michael Martin, are they going to listen to people who are not physicians, who have no expertise in autism, or are they going to listen to their medical providers, their treatment providers, and ask them what their view of the current science is? That's what they should be doing. Baldwin, the pediatrician in Cincinnati, likes to explain that any association that's been seen between autism and acetaminophen in studies doesn't necessarily mean there's a casual relationship. Both shark attacks and eating ice cream increase in summer, she says, but that doesn't mean that one causes the other. These studies have been out, show correlation, but don't actually show causation, says Baldwin. And I think that's an important thing for parents to realize, that the science is not known just yet, despite what has been said.